Taxes was chasing updates. Now taxes.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
And we're live.
Oh, well, good evening, pals. It is once again time for This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. I'm Hobbs, he's Ben. You are in Clown World. Honk, honk. Another day, another week of crazy, crazy crap. As has been the case, the Iran conflict has taken up the majority of the bandwidth in most people's minds right now. Although, let's try to keep that to a minimum. My poor dear mother tells me that she is sick of hearing about the Iran war on our show.
I mean, I can't blame her. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
So
there are lots of other things to talk about in the world. Unfortunately, a lot of them are tangentially related to those countries in the Middle East. So
I do want to bring up one thing that I thought was funny about the Iran war. Africa is apparently entering the side of the. Did you see this?
Yes, I did. I think, what was it? Nigeria said.
I think so, yeah.
Nigeria said they'd enter the war on the side of Israel. You've got other countries that are saying they'll join the war on the side of Iran. You got Pakistan threatening to nuke India for some reason.
Okay. Darn.
Yeah, I see this as a total victory, but you guys just are looking for any excuse to throw nuclear weapons at each other. Yeah.
It's apparently we've entered the silly phase of the conflict at this point. I don't know. She said she didn't want to talk about it, so we'll get off of it. But I mean, we have to honor our parents. So we will move on to other stuff.
And there is plenty of other stuff to talk about.
And Hobbs dropped. Apparently we didn't change the subject enough. He's coming right back. Here he is. You're back.
Yes, I think the internet read my mind about what I was going to say next. There's plenty of things in the world to talk about. And one of the good things about doing a show like this live is the fact that we can kind of tap into the hive mind out there. I know we don't have a big audience, but I do see that there's a little counter over here that says that there's at least 5 people watching on the Rumble chat alone. I'm sure there's more on the YouTube and maybe even on the Facebook if people are still over there watching us through that platform for whatever reason. So, like I said, one of the advantages of doing a live show is that you guys can actually put a chat down in the chat, and if we miss something to talk about or we get a point wrong or anything like that, you guys can just correct us in the chat, bring up something that you'd want us to talk about in the chat, or just shoot the shit. Because, as I've said before on multiple streams, your engagement with us tells the algorithm that this is a live stream that is worth interacting with, and then that boosts us up in the algorithm so that more people will end up seeing our live streams who may not be subscribed to our channel. And by doing that, they get into the live stream, they start watching, they start talking back and forth, and it makes it a bit of a better experience for everybody. I don't really like having to explain this because it seems pretty obvious, but if you guys want this to be kind of a bigger and better experience, start typing your comments away down in the, even if it's just even dumb shit, don't get, community strikes or anything like that, but just engage with us and we'll engage with you. Other than that, how about a bit of a white pill?
Okay, I could use that.
Yes, I think everybody can use that. If you've been scrolling Twitter the last day or two, you may have noticed that there has been an awful lot of Japanese content on Twitter. Have you noticed this?
I spend most of my time on Instagram, but I have seen it pop up even over on Instagram.
Yes. So somebody somewhere at Twitter, and of course it kind of bleeds out from there, has decided to change some line of code somewhere in the Twitter algorithm so that American and Japanese users are starting to see a lot more of each other's content. And rather than being sort of an online dick measuring contest that cross cultural experiences sometimes tend to devolve into, it's actually become a very wholesome sort of bit of cultural exchange. Uh, we have here in the United States the weeb
Hmm.
subculture, which are typically nerdy white Americans that are obsessed with Japanese culture. And apparently they have reverse weebs over in Japan too that are obsessed with stereotypical like deep stereotype American
Cowboys
culture.
and muscle car culture. Yeah.
Yeah, and 50s greasers and Western movies and uh, like if you want to see some extreme skill with a firearm, like well, not really a firearm, but like a blank shooting firearm, there are some Japanese quick draw artists that would put Jesse James in a box. Some of them take the Japanese kind of have a reputation for getting invested into a hobby and then perfecting it.
I mean, kind of get a little bit of a love triangle here going with the amount that Mexico loves anime and almost all things Japanese. I mean,
Yeah,
we could get a triad here built on on love of cartoons with large-eyed anime girls, I guess, and video games.
yeah, and then the Japanese love stuff about our culture too. Like I shared a picture with the group chat a little bit ago of uh, three Japanese girl dressed up like cowgirls. You know, cowboy hats and flannel and jeans, and apparently there's a big subculture that exists for that.
Yeah, I've seen
So
some videos of the cowboy bars over there. They're like from the 70s and 80s, back when they had, sawdust on the floor. The musicians are up behind chicken wire.
Roadhouse.
The roadhouse, yeah. Neon signs all over it. It looked like a good time. I'd love to go to one in Japan.
Yeah,
Japan is still one of those countries, it seems, that has avoided the, how to put it politically. I mean, it's an ethno state.
yeah.
So, and they haven't embraced the migrant infusion. And when they've tried, it did not go well, which was recently, wasn't it?
Right, the cultural enrichment, I think, is the phrase that you're reaching for. Yeah, so they had an influx of some Kurdish refugees. They had some people from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. You know, the human factories of the third world, which seems to be where all of the problem populations are coming from, no matter where you're at, whether it's Canada or Great Britain or Japan or Australia. It always seems to be Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. You know, they're the usual suspects. And rather than get cowed by the political class. Oh, this is for the GDP. They're doing jobs that you don't want to do. Our healthcare system is failing because the population is getting older and the birth rate's too low. Like a lot of Western nations did. Japan had their cultural enrichment for about 15 seconds. And when bags of garbage started appearing on the street, they said, nope, not in this town. And they voted in the most right-wing populist government they possibly could, who may or may not end up kicking everybody who's not ethnically Japanese out of the country.
Yeah, the relationship between Trump and the Prime Minister of Japan's interesting. I saw a video when she arrived. Instead of doing the bows or anything, she went in for a hug. Then you have the joke that Trump cracked about Pearl Harbor.
which somehow did not cause an international incident. Apparently, she took it in stride, and then shortly after that was when somebody at Twitter decided that they were going to cook the algorithm, and cultural exchange began.
The funny thing I saw came of that. What did Trump say? You didn't tell us about Pearl Harbor. And then there's people in the comments like, did they? Did we know about Pearl Harbor?
FDR cannot be reached for comment.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a dumb. The joke didn't make sense in the context of what they were saying, anyways. But he said it. It was a pure Trump thing. She didn't seem to get offended by it. You could tell the audience, whoever was in there in that room when he said it, there was like one or two people went,
Yeah. But I guess he made it all better because I don't know if you've seen it or not. There's a picture or a short video clip of them walking down the hallway down where they have all of the different portraits of the past presidents. And when they get to the Joe Biden portrait, he famously replaced the portrait of Joe Biden with a picture of the auto pen. And she saw it and just cracked up laughing. So it's like this was an internationally known joke.
Yeah, and I never understood. I need to know more about the dynamics of how all our chip manufacturing end up in Taiwan and not Japan. It seemed like such a risky move to have it all in Taiwan, and when Japan's right there, and it seems like they had the factories and the know how to do it, but somehow it ended up not there. I don't know if you're aware of how that happened at all, or.
I don't know the official story, but I have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
So way back in the 70s when they opened up China to the World Trade Organization, and that's when a lot of our manufacturing began to be offshored to China because, according to Henry Kissinger, he wanted to sort of culturally flood China with American manufacturing because, in his mind, if we were trading with China to such a heavy degree that we kind of became codependent on each other, then the Chinese would become more like America. And as we can see in the last, 40, 50 years, the exact opposite happened. We kind of became more like China. They have liberalized and loosened the grip on, a lot of their government restrictions and whatnot. They went from being like a Maoist, pure communist state to being what really could be described as fascist in the book definition of the term, where they have private ownership of the means of production, but complete or at least overwhelming control by the state, which is what fascism is. And that's exactly what they've got going on in China right now. And in the meantime, because of this cultural exchange, the United States did not stay the freewheeling bastion of freedom and liberty that we were known for. We ended up tightening and restricting and surveilling and doing all of the things that the Chinese are kind of stereotypically known for around the world. So, they kind of regressed to the mean.
Well, and I'm old enough. I can remember when Japan was a bad guy as far as what they were producing. They said they framed it as they're flooding the market with cheap crap. No, the Japanese stuff was actually a superior product to what we were making in America. In the 80s, and it ruined a lot of. I mean, for some reason, America was just cranking out crap in the 80s.
We were coasting on the post-war reputation where, and this is something that I think I've said it on this show before, but I've had this argument with several people before when they were talking about how in the 50s and 60s the marginal tax rate was something like 90% on the highest earners, and yet America was still booming in the 1950s. And they need to realize that in the 1950s, what other option did you have besides made in America? We had just come out of the Second World War. Japan was radioactive. Western Europe was in shambles. Russia was a communist state, and they were directly opposed to us now. So you're not going to get cheap manufacturing in the Soviet sphere of influence. China was in the midst of the Great Leap Forward, so they were not going to be, they were at that point still an agrarian society, and they were shifting communist anyway. Mexico was an agrarian society. Canada was, and to a large extent still is, a resource extraction economy. Nothing was industrialized in South America. Australia was sparsely populated. Africa's Africa. So it's like in the 1950s, it's made in America or it's not made at all. Until Western Europe got back on their feet and several of the other countries kind of caught up in the industrialization race. And because America had the reputation for making everything, and we had a reputation of making quality products, the bean counters got involved throughout the 60s and 70s and on into the 80s, and decided that it would be a good idea to maybe cut corners, maybe impact the bottom line. Quality began to slip. Profit margins began to increase until other countries like Japan got their shit back together, got everything rebuilt, and started, cranking out comparable or even superior products at a lower price point. Because they didn't have to subsidize the first world living conditions of the fat and happy Americans.
I mean, here's a perfect example of 80s, peak 80s American car there versus peak 80s Toyota. I mean,
they're both cool.
Yeah, so we had a comment over here. Could it be how easy it is to set up a business in Hong Kong from playing prepper? Yeah, probably at the time. The USA boom was because if you're invested in profits in your business, you get massive tax breaks. That's why pensions and such were a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's numerous reasons. Reasons.
And most of the Japanese businesses are doing okay. The big ones in Japan, and we've got such a partnership with them, even with our manufacturing. I don't know. It seemed weird that the relationship between the two countries. Oh, we got kicked off Facebook. I tried streaming on Facebook just for fun. I don't know what gets us kicked off. Between the two countries, you made a good point. We decided to go with China instead. That worked out really well for us.
Yeah. In Japan right now, they've got the same problems that a lot of Western aligned countries do, in that their birth rate is falling. And I think that the only people that are in a worse way than Japan right now is South Korea, which is another one of those very high IQ, very good quality manufacturing company that is suffering from a declining birth rate. But Japan is in sort of a unique condition where, rather than importing the third world to do the jobs that they are unable to do anymore, Japan's decided that they're going to automate it. They're going to automate their way out of all of their problems, which is just the peak Japanese thing to do.
Weren't they working on a mech at one point too? I saw, or was that just a meme?
I'm sure it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But if there's going to be anybody that pulls it off first, it's going to be Japan.
Right. And I saw China's trying to go that way too now. I've kind of much how USA got screwed by being the last country holding the slavery bag. I think we're going to be screwed by being one of the countries not holding the industrial bag when it goes to automation. The first country that ends up being automated, I mean, they win everything at that point. That's why, I hate extra taxes, government spending and whatnot, but we've got to encourage to get manufacturing back here, because obviously we're going to get to the point of full automation at some point, as much as stuff as we can.
And if not full automation, then automation sort of a hybrid system where people will still keep their jobs, but automation to the point where the productivity is going to be so much that we're going to be about as close to a post scarcity world as you can get and still be, within the realm of reality.
Mhm.
Because people are excuse me, people are still going to want to work. That's the thing that a lot of these automation people are, like, well, what happens when we automate everything and nobody has a job anymore? Are we just going to have a UBI? And it's like, sitting around on my ass playing video games or like not having anything to do that's productive would be good for maybe a month. And then I
Mhm.
would be really, really bored.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of jobs out there that don't pay worth a shit that you still need people for. But when we get to that post scarcity point, um, they'll be able, like a lot of scientific work, cataloging species and whatnot. It seems unimportant and a waste of money right now because there's other stuff that needs done. But you know, when you have automation doing everything, maybe that work will be important. You know, anything involving firefighting, I have no idea. It's gonna be such a weird world ahead. I can't even predict which jobs are going to be the one that become important after almost everything's automated.
Yeah. And then there's probably also going to be a number of uh, careers out there that could be automated away, but the prestige of doing them is going to be, people are going to want that to stay within human hands.
Mhm.
Things like airline pilots or even fighter jet pilots. The human body can only take so many G's. So a human piloted drone aircraft or even a fully automated drone aircraft, like an autonomous drone aircraft, would, on paper, be superior to a human piloted aircraft. But in a lot of people's minds, taking the man out of the machine, you lose something.
Mhm.
Fighter pilot is one of those like very prestigious jobs where you're like the tip top of physical fitness and mental aptitude and spatial awareness. So that's going to be one of those things where people are going to want to keep the meat, so
Mhm.
to speak. Other jobs too, like artisanal craftsmanship.
Yeah, I was going to
Like,
mention that.
yeah, there could be 100 things that a machine could make better than human hands, but it loses a certain degree of character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be able to be bougie because we. I'm sure somebody wearing all handcrafted, non-machine made stuff. It'll have to be some sort of flex at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's going to be way more expensive. Yeah,
We have a
say
question. How is Japan supposed to automate elder care? I think they're working on it, aren't they?
I've seen like little nurse robots that they're like cute little things that you'd typically find like in an Apple store
Have
or
them in those
something.
beds like Wally.
Yeah, yeah, there's that too, but that might end up being another one of those like prestige jobs where you don't want to hand that over to a robot. There's still going to be a birth rate. There's still going to be new people being born in Japan, and maybe that's going to be one of the few jobs that will be passed down to younger and younger generation as time goes on. I could see it. You're fast. You go from having like a fast food job be your entry level, teenager, high school kid, to being something like working at a nursing home, taking care of the elderly people. Let the robots flip the burgers. You take care of your great grandparents, type
Right?
of thing. And
Yeah.
since Japan is that kind of polite, homogenous ethno state, you don't necessarily have to worry about, you know, some African immigrant with a chip on his shoulder coming in and beating the shit out of your elderly loved ones because, they pooped their depends or something for the
With
fifth
their
time today.
nursing degree from who knows where.
Yeah.
Their nursing degree, Mel. But yeah, that's interesting to think about. If it's a good idea to strengthen that relationship at this point, considering how Taiwan's such a wild card,
Hmm.
and apparently, and we're not supposed to talk Iran, but Iran's made it obvious that we don't have a real good ability to defend our allies. I guess.
Yeah, we can't be everywhere at once.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's 8 billion people in this world, and 350 million of them are Americans. So, you know, you only stretch us so
If
far.
anything, I'm impressed by the restraint that China has shown. I mean, what better opportunity have they had within the last 20 years to take Taiwan back than now?
Yeah.
I mean, remarkable restraint on their part. It could be because it seems like their military leadership's kind of in turmoil in China. It seems like every week you're getting a new story about Xi Jinping is axed some other general here and there. So I don't know if that's related or not, but I think it shows remarkable restraint on their part that they haven't just jumped into it if there's not some other reason.
He might have reached the paranoid schizophrenia level of communist dictatorships.
I mean, geez, the guy's how old? He's got to be. Let's see. Born in 1953, so he's not too old, but
Yeah. What, 73?
yeah. And I don't know the dynamics, how that. I have no idea how their government works anymore. It's such a hodgepodge of this and that. Um, I assume they hold elections of some sort to get him in there, but who knows?
Yeah, but also, if you think about it, perhaps China is taking a look at what's going on in Iran right now and seeing the relative ease with which Iran and their drone and ballistic missile program is keeping the United States military fairly well contained. And they're like, that could be us. Maybe we shouldn't mess with Taiwan because they're, a little island, but they're technologically advanced, and given enough time and resources, they could be throwing Shahed drone style attacks into mainland China, and there's not a whole lot we could do with it.
Well, it seems like the main weakness though hasn't even been that it's been their strikes on the other countries that have caused the most effect. I mean,
Hmm.
would Taiwan just start lobbing? Who are they going to lob shit in on the mainland to put pressure on China?
No, that's just the thing. I don't think, I could be wrong. Obviously, I don't have an inside track onto China's defense capabilities, but I don't think China is heavily invested in short range anti air capabilities on their mainland. So it's not necessarily who else could Taiwan lob stuff at. They could just be lobbing stuff into China, and there's not a whole lot that China could do until they race to catch up with the short range air defense.
So the pressure would be just start blowing up cities in the mainland until the Chinese government would cry uncle, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean that's a short strait. It's like 40 or 60 miles wide. It's got to be a bit of a death trap.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's one or two points where you can see the mainland across the way. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation. And then, if again with a lack of short range air defense, if Taiwan starts throwing, one way attack drones or ballistic missiles into Japan, you'd also run the risk of the same thing coming from uh, Japan and South Korea. Could
Mm-hmm.
start doing the exact same thing. There's a contested area on the border between Russia and China that Russia and China don't like to talk about. But in the last few years, the Chinese have kind of slowly been migrating people into there so that they can perhaps one day be like, oh, this is a majority ethnic Chinese area, so it should belong to China instead of Russia, in much the same way that Russia made that argument for the Donbass and Crimea.
And it sounds bad to wish for any type of warfare, but I kind of wish China would start some shit with somebody, either through a proxy or whatnot, just so we had an idea of what their capabilities are.
See, I think that that's part of their long game. They see us doing it and catching so much shit on the international scene that they're like, you know what, we'll just bide our time. We'll leave the warmongering to those stupid Americans, and we'll build bridges instead of blow them up, with our Belt and Road Initiative.
I think the last time China tried anything, it was with Vietnam, and they got their ass kicked. But that's the Vietnamese. They don't play.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, because there's really not anybody on there that they would do any sort of proxy. I mean, like you said, the Russia thing. I don't think that's something Russia wants to get into. There's always kind of been some issues with Tibet, but that's such a small country. I just don't. They're doing the right strategy.
Yeah, they are, and they're watching us shoot ourselves in the foot by just force projection everywhere.
And there's something to be said to have forces that are battle tested, and you have actual doctrine to draw upon for combat, but there is a point of overdoing it.
Yeah. Yes, there is. There is such a thing as battle fatigue, and the United States has been at war for the last quarter century. Low intensity counterinsurgency for the most part. We haven't had anything really near peer in that time, but that slow grind is enough to, that's like 3 generations worth of soldier. If you figure that an average enlistment is about 8 years, 25 years is about 3 generations worth of soldiers. And not to mention the material wear that goes into just a constant low intensity op tempo over 25 years. That's a lot of worn out trucks, a lot of worn out tanks, a lot of worn out guns, a lot of worn out artillery. So who knows what the actual state of the military would be in an actual near-peer confrontation.
Comment from Nathan: offensive operations in the days of FPV drones are going to be difficult.
I can already see that in Ukraine.
Yeah, as a parent, by all the videos that come out of Ukraine, geez, that sucks.
Yeah. I say it online all the time. I've said it on this show several times. The future of warfare is lazy, lame, and gay.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this drone shit so much. I feel as a guy who, for good or ill, as a guy who came into the military kind of romanticizing the boots on the ground guy in the flak vest and the gun, I feel like a knight in the medieval times must have felt when the firearm was introduced.
Or even the longbow, shit. That's why they used to cut their fingers off.
Yeah. Can you imagine training and investing a small fortune into a suit of armor and a war horse with a storied pedigree, and you are at the pinnacle of your skill, and nothing on the battlefield can compare to you and the people in your class, and some illiterate peasant takes you out
with
from
a crossbow
400 yards away with a crossbow
that he don't even have to have skill for a crossbow. You can just wind the crank and point it. So yeah,
that's what
perfect example.
That's what this drone shit makes me feel like. It's like, what is even the point of all of this stuff that I'm looking at right now? All this tactical gear, all these guns, these pile of ammos that I've got. I can just put on a headset and get a one-way attack drone, and I'm the fiercest predator on the battlefield. Bullshit.
Geez, I saw one video. I mean, the guy was getting chased by 3 drones. I mean, they can't even. And I saw, who knows how accurate stuff is coming about that war anymore, but Ukraine is actually making gains again. Um, so if that's the case, I mean, that sucks for Russia. You know,
Yeah.
look how fatigued we are with the Iran war, and it's been going on what, 2 or 3
29
weeks,
days.
29 days. How the fuck must it feel to be a Russian in
Well,
the
we kind of had
Ukraine
the
war?
doomer music
Yeah,
at
it's
the
got to
beginning.
be just the worst, you know. And it's right on their border. I'm surprised you don't hear more about, Ukrainian strikes flying into Russia at this point. Occasionally you do, but I mean, if that war tips over to Ukraine just starting to claim large amounts of territory back, it'll be interesting what happens there.
See, I don't think they have the manpower for it. They might take back a little parcel here or there, but even in the age of attack drones and long-range artillery and jet fighters and strategic bombers and all of this other stuff, you can use all of that stuff to take land, but it still comes down to the guy on the ground with a gun to hold it. And right now, Ukraine just doesn't have the guys.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if Russia being tied up in Ukraine played. Oh, I'm talking about Iran again. Played into the decision to get into Iran because they figured, Russia. Obviously, Russia is going to funnel money and materials into Iran if we go in there. But if they're stretched kind of thin in Ukraine, I wonder if that played into their decision.
Well, they are giving satellite intelligence to the Iranians,
But you can get
which
that off private sector now too. Have you seen those videos? Those, I
yeah.
mean,
Turnabout's fair play. We've been feeding the Ukrainians, satellite imagery. We've been feeding the Ukrainians real-time data on the position of Russian generals for 5 years now, and they've been using that to great effect to take out high-ranking Russian individuals on the battlefield. So to jump up and cry foul that the Russians are doing that in regards to Iran is, a little bit hypocritical.
right. I guess we had a couple other things we wanted to hit on too. You kept on the Joe Kent situation.
Not as
Um,
much as I'd like. Uh,
he's still
he's
making the rounds. I saw they were talking shit about him.
Yeah, he apparently did like a 1 or 2 hour interview with Harrison Smith over at Infowars that they are going to be releasing uh, the full interview on the Alex Jones show on Monday. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, hitting Alex Jones now. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what to think about it. What leaks weren't they attributing some of the leaks to Tucker, to him?
Yeah, I don't know. Harrison, he said that after the Charlie Kirk assassination, he hinted that he was talking to somebody high up in the administration, and it
Mhm.
turned out to be Joe Kent. So that might be one of the things that they're trying to uh, pin to him. They're trying to pin like leaking classified information or whatever on him. As far as I know, I think they're just grasping at straws right now because this guy was not supposed to leave the reservation, and he did. Joe Kent, for you guys who don't know, he's the counterterrorism chief under Tulsi Gabbard. Not only that, but he's also a former Green Beret, former CIA operative, and his wife was killed in Syria doing the stupid shit that we're doing over there in Syria. So the guy's lost a lot. He had a lot of skin in the game. He fought these stupid wars over in the Middle East for the better part of 2 decades, and he's seen what comes of this. So if there's anybody out there who has firsthand experience to why we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, it's that guy.
Mhm.
His opposition to the war in Iran, his opposition to the shenanigans being pulled in Syria, to all of that over there it doesn't come from some well-meaning bleeding heart peacenik position. This is a guy who's been there and done that. He's got firsthand knowledge.
Yeah.
So maybe when he starts talking about these sorts of things, people would be wise to listen rather than gaff him off as just an anti-Semite.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to check out that Tucker Carlson interview. He seems to be the guy for interviews right now. I told you I watched his interview with Huckabee. I see multiple places saying it's one of the most important interviews of like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening to see how absolutely crazy the Christian Zionists actually are. And Mike Huckabee is not alone in his thoughts. There's a lot more like him in our government.
Very high positions of our government.
Yep. So that interview was very scary. I'll be glad and it seems to be that sort of thinking is the boomer mentality. So once again, we'll tie that to boomers heading out. Hopefully when Huckabee and people like him are out, we'll be able to get things done. Speaking of boomers not getting anything done, the current stalling in Congress of everything.
Yeah, the Senate is being very obstinate. The SAVE Act is, who knows? They're talking about nuking the filibuster in order to get it passed through, which
I don't have a problem. I mean, I've never been a fan of filibusters anyways.
Yeah, I tend to disagree. I think that it's a tool that's there for a reason. But then I listened to a Nick Freitas video today where he's like, we can nuke the filibuster and get the SAVE Act through. And it's not going to be an abandonment of our principles because as soon as the Democrats are in power, they will nuke the filibuster to put whatever stupid shit that they want through. And this was in regards, he was critiquing a video that was explaining the left's most useful tactic that they have right now is invoking the Constitution, invoking the rule of law, invoking the tenets of Christianity, or invoking any number of things that they don't actually believe in, but they know that we do. And so they use that as a weapon against us in order to get what they want. It's like, denying refugee asylum, that's not very Christian of you. And it's like, well, you're not a Christian. You don't believe in God. What does it matter to you? It's, or not giving them due process. That goes against the founding fathers and the Constitution. And it's like, motherfucker, you were just 2 months ago saying that America is an illegitimate project of dead white slave owners and does not have a right to exist. So what do you care about constitutionality?
Well, look at the time frame when the filibuster was started too, though. You may have had people that wouldn't just vote their party no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, those days are over at this point. We're going to just be stuck in perpetual gridlock where nothing is. I mean, maybe the government not being able to do anything is a good point, but it's just going to be shutdowns and stalling forever going forward. And the federal government not being to do anything would be all right if we had the power back to the states where it's supposed to be. But they've given up so much power to the federal government that any sort of stalling just screws up everything.
Yeah. In normal circumstances, I'd say the federal government being in deadlock was a feature, not a bug. But with how much stuff that they end up having to do.
Yeah, sure, let's keep the filibuster, but then turn a bunch of the power back to the states, and we should be all right. So that's held up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff tied to it. ICE is DHS is losing their funding. ICE is losing their funding, I guess. ICE, the TSA is currently without paychecks for what, 40 some days now.
Yeah, and ICE is filling in at the airports.
But I guess their funding's running out next. So I have a guess I won't be taking any trips coming up, apparently. But I've always thought
But we got money for war, guys.
I've always thought the airport security should be handled by the airlines, because who's more interested in not having an airplane blow up than the airlines, I would assume.
Yeah, but that would be an expense that the airline would have to incur, and then your ticket prices would go up, and then fewer people would travel. So that makes your ticket prices go up again. So they're more than happy to let the federal government take that one on the nose.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. I'm sure it'd even out eventually.
Yeah, it
I
would.
can't. Yeah, but yeah, that's the excuse they would use for that. So I don't know. They're in a standstill right now. It doesn't look like it's gonna break anytime in the future. They had all the No Kings protests today again, I guess. You didn't see anything about them pop up. I had to hit a couple news sites. CNN declares they're a raving success,
Of course they
supposedly,
do.
which I agree. Still no kings. Good job.
Yep. Woke up this morning, there was no king. Mission
Them
accomplished, guys.
them standing on street corners waving Iranian and Palestinian flags, though, not a good look.
No.
Not a good look at all. So I guess, and you said that your mom drove by one, and it was
No,
your
she didn't
typical.
drive by one. She just saw it on whatever news app she was looking at. It's like just a bunch of people her age. She was like, "Why? Why are these stupid old women my age?" My mom was born in 1957, which means she would have been a child during the 60s. And I told her, I was like, these are women who were born too late to have been meaningfully involved in the Civil Rights Act, civil rights protests and everything of the 1960s. I'm sure that a lot of them are childless or grandchildless, and they feel bitter that they've wasted their entire life buying in to the feminist career woman. Now they have no family to take care of them. They didn't fulfill their biological imperative, and now they feel that their life has been up until this point wasted, and they need something that they can glom onto to be like, yes, I was there for the Iran war and the pro-Palestine protests of the early 2020s, and by golly, we made a difference.
Good for them getting back to their. I'm surprised they haven't tried to hold some geriatric Woodstock 3 or something.
Ugh, can you imagine the smell?
But there's still nothing around. They could still make it happen. We're getting right up on an hour here. I think we hit on everything we wanted to hit on.
Yeah,
I'll have to go watch it. You said Joe Kent's going to be on Alex Jones next week
Monday.
on
Well,
Monday.
he's already done the interview. It's been pre-recorded, and Harrison's been kind of dropping clips of it here and there. But like the full interview is going to be on the Alex Jones show Monday.
You know who I'm curious? What is? Have you started watching anything by Dan Bongino?
No, I
Yeah,
haven't.
I'm
Ever
curious
since he
what he
got back,
says about it. I mean, what has he said about his time? I haven't seen anything. Has he just come back like nothing happened, or what?
I think he wants to. Like he came back, and I watched the first 2 episodes of him being back, and yeah, he just kind of like slotted in, like nothing happened. But he also went to a 2-hour format. And I'm like, I've got too much other stuff that I want to watch right now. So I haven't watched anything other than the first 2 since he's been back. His stuff pops up every now and again. He's shilling for Israel. He's acting like nothing happened with the Epstein files. He's yelling about everybody who has a problem with the Iran war. He's upset that anti-Semitism is on the rise, and typical boilerplate neocon positions.
So weird he became a
Unfortunately.
neocon. Well, I don't know if it's weird or not that he became a neocon. Was more hopeful for that guy than how that would turn out.
Yeah.
Pretty
I think he got
disappointing.
the call while he was at the FBI. It was like, you think you're going to make a
Oh,
difference?
speaking of that, we did talk. Speaking of people at the FBI, have you seen Kash Patel's email photos?
Yeah, they hacked his Gmail.
Yeah, they were trying to say they hacked the FBI servers. It's like obviously these are from a Gmail account he's had for 15 years or something.
Yeah.
So cool your jets, Iran. It's funny, but you didn't hack the FBI.
No.
I mean, he's posing in a double popped polo shirt with a cigar. It's like, yeah, those are from some account probably named Cash Money.
Yeah. Cash
Ca-
underscore money 69420 at gmail.com.
Yeah. So yeah, those photos were kind of funny. It didn't really go anywhere. It was just a funny little sidebar by
Yeah.
Iranian hackers, supposedly.
Personally embarrassing, but nothing really of any substance.
Yeah, nothing major. I'm sure if there was something of substance, they would have put it out there. But yeah, thanks for joining us this week. We will be back next week. More Clown World updates. We'll see what happens. We'll check out that interview on Harrison. I'm sure Joe Kent will have something interesting to say. If you're watching this on Rumble, Rhodes #2 Liberty on YouTube. Same thing if you're on YouTube, go like us on Rumble. Rhodes #2Liberty.com for the website. And R2L Pod at Twatter. To find us on X, and Alex Jones Store /R2L if you're into Alex Jones Store stuff. It helps get us a little kickback if you order anything. And that is it. Thanks for joining us, and stay honky.